Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A huge crowd gathered here in San Diego to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The group at UC San Diego this afternoon was mainly made up of students, and organizers believe it's the biggest protest the campus has ever seen. And KPBS reporter John Carroll is there live now with more. John?
Maya, I'm here on the Matthews Quad at UC San Diego, and it's quiet here now. That was not the case earlier this afternoon. As a matter of fact, through the rain, you can still see some UC San Diego police standing by. There was, in fact, quite a security presence out here this afternoon.
As Latinx students, we cannot stand in silence and be complicit and do nothing to fight against the genocide of more than 30,000 plus Palestinians.
Students for Justice in Palestine organized what they said would be the biggest protest in the history of this campus. Don't know if it was the biggest, but it looked to me to be a couple of thousand people here. Various speakers called for Israel to get out of Gaza, accusing the Jewish state of genocide. One speaker with the group Jewish Voices for Peace said criticizing Israel and its actions does not mean one is anti-Semitic. There were some toward the back of the crowd shouting in opposition, calling for an end to support of terrorism. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Karen Perry, who's the executive director of Hillel of San Diego. That's a group that supports Jewish students at major universities in the San Diego area. I asked her what question she would ask to a protester here. You'll hear that, and then the answer to that question from a protester who did not want to identify herself.
I would ask for, what does dialogue look like? What does finding opportunities to build bridges look like? We're all in this world together, and I think there are true opportunities to connect, and I wonder what that would look like.
I would love to come together and work towards creating a bigger Jewish Voices for Peace, because peace is something important to all of us. And, we already started working with members, the new org on campus, and I'd love to make it bigger and work more together.
She referred to there is a new chapter of Jewish Voices for Peace here on campus. After the various speeches, a lot of the students prayed before setting off on a march around campus. Now, something that several speakers here said, they support a demand by the Associated Students of UC San Diego for the university to divest from any money that they are spending on Israeli concerns. Specifically, they said that they do not want the university to spend any of their $7 million budget on companies that do business in Israel. Live at UC San Diego, John Carroll, KPBS News.
Well, let's look ahead in time. Tonight, we are tracking some more active weather moving into the area. A shower and even a thunderstorm still possible, with lows dropping down to the mid-50s. Now, we are going to continue to track how long this rain is going to stick around, when we could even see some mountain snow, and when temperatures are going to start to rise again. You're going to want to stay with us. Stay tuned.
Well, Nikki Haley has suspended her presidential campaign after being soundly defeated by former President Donald Trump on Super Tuesday. Rather than endorse her 2024 primary election opponent, Haley had this message for Trump and the GOP in a speech earlier today.
Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote, "Never just follow the crowd. Always make up your own mind." It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that.
The race for U.S. Senate will feature the congressman who helped to impeach President Trump against a Major League Hall of Famer. Democrat Adam Schiff and Republican Steve Garvey are the top two getters And we're going to take a look at the latest results here in a second. Schiff is a longtime politician who is trying to move from the House to the Senate. Garvey is a first-time candidate.
Trump would attack me after rally after rally, and I think all those things were basically what we would call Wednesday. But you had my back every step of the way. Every step of the way.
What you are all feeling tonight is what it's like to hit a walk-off home run. Kind of like San Diego in '84.
And Adam Schiff actually supported Garvey in the primary to help clear the field of other Democrats, including Katie Porter and Barbara Lee. However, Garvey might still go to Washington at least for a short while. The former Padres and Dodgers star is leading in the second question on the ballot for who will serve the remainder of Dianne Feinstein's term. And that period of time will begin after the November general election until a new Congress is sworn in January. Current Senator LaFonza Butler chose not to run. It was a good election night for incumbents in the city of San Diego. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the mayor and city council incumbents appear to be cruising to re-election.
Mayor Todd Gloria was feeling good Tuesday at the election night party hosted by the county Democrats. He currently holds slightly more than 50% of the vote. He thanked his supporters and said his message is resonating with voters.
Tonight's results are an endorsement of continuing to do things that we have done together over the last 4 years. Pave more roads, house more homeless people, build more affordable homes for working and middle-class San Diegans, and keeping San Diego one of the safest big cities in this country.
Police officer Larry Turner is in a distant second place with about 24% of the vote. He'll face Gloria in a November runoff. That is, if he can overcome a lawsuit claiming he failed to establish residency in the city of San Diego by the required deadline. Turner says the lawsuit, filed by Gloria's supporters, is nothing more than a political hit job.
They're just trying to do stuff to trick people before March 5th. It didn't work. I hope they keep doing it. Go ahead and spend your money on a silly lawsuit, spend your money on fiction stories, and go ahead. I'm just going to keep telling the story of hope.
If Turner is deemed ineligible to run for mayor, his spot in the runoff would go to the third-placed candidate, public interest attorney Genevieve Jones-Wright. In the city council races, incumbent Stephen Whitburn, who represents District 3, holds a 35-point lead over second-place challenger Colleen Cusack. And the special election to fill a vacancy in District 4 appears likely to be settled without a runoff. Henry Foster III currently has more than 50% of the vote. He says District 4 voters want the election settled.
I think they really feel that their voices haven't been heard, especially with the vacation of the seat. There's been a lot of decisions that have been made. We just recently experienced the disaster of the floods, and I think they are really looking forward to representation.
The San Diego County Registrar of Voters estimates once all the ballots are counted, turnout in the primary will be around 36%. That's well below turnout in the last presidential primary, when top of the ballot races were much more competitive. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
In Chula Vista, the race for the District 4 City Council seat is still up in the air. KPBS South Bay reporter Corey Suzuki joins us in the newsroom. Corey, it appears that no two candidates have a decisive lead yet.
Maya, that's right. Early returns from last night's primary election show the vote split between three leading candidates. The top two candidates in this race will move on to a runoff in November, but it isn't clear who that will be yet. Right now, Cesar Fernandez and Rudy Ramirez have a narrow lead. Fernandez is a school district official in Chula Vista, and Ramirez is a former city council member. But close behind them is Andrea Cardenas, the most recent council member. Cardenas resigned last month and pleaded guilty to charges of grand theft from state and federal taxpayers. That made this an extremely confusing election. Early voting had already started, so her name was still on the ballot. And it looks like there's a chance she could still be in the running to move on to the general election in November.
Corey, more votes have been coming in, but it seems like they've mostly confirmed that the early election results from last night. How are the top candidates feeling at this point?
Well, I think Cesar Fernandez and Rudy Ramirez are both feeling pretty good right now. Fernandez says he's grateful for the support from voters so far. In a statement, he said the results showed that District 4 was tired of politics as usual and that he was ready to restore trust in city government. Rudy Ramirez also says he's feeling grateful for the support and cautiously optimistic. Here he is at a watch party last night.
The margins are so tight that anything can happen. And so, and everybody is kind of clustered together. So I have a feeling it's going to be a long night. So we're going to be standing by to see how things play out.
Andrea Cardenas did not respond to our request for comment.
And looking ahead to November, can you tell us how this race could possibly play out?
Well, a primary victory for Rudy Ramirez and Cesar Fernandez would be the clearest outcome. That's what things are looking like right now. In that case, they would both move on to the general election, and Andrea Cardenas would be out of the running for good. If the vote count changes in Cardenas' favor, though, and she moves on to the runoff instead, that's where things could get really confusing again. When Cardenas resigned last month, I think a lot of people took that to mean that she was also pulling out of the election. But her attorney has told at least one reporter that if she does move on to the runoff and somehow wins in November, she might actually try to rejoin the city council. I should say, her lawyer did not respond to a request for comment last night. So at this point, I think it's still a little unclear if local election rules would stop her from going back to a council seat. In the newsroom, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
And early results show Marco Verdugo with a strong lead over Bart Maisfeld in the race for Chula Vista City Attorney. Verdugo has more than 57% of the votes. This is the runoff to the special election held last November. If Verdugo holds on, he could be sworn in as early as April. KPBS got reaction from both candidates to the results.
Obviously, we got to wait for every vote to be counted and for the election to be certified. But there's nobody in that seat right now. And so Chula Vista is in need of a full-time city attorney. And so I look forward to jumping in there.
I'm hopeful for the future. You know, I think we had two good candidates. I wish the numbers were better and maybe the results will change in the future. But like I said, I'm really hopeful and thankful for all the support and proud of what we did.
It's not just registered voters focused on the Super Tuesday primaries. Students are interested too. Coming up, what local kids are learning about politics and the influencers trying to reach them. San Diego Unified has approved mass layoffs as it navigates a $94 million budget deficit. The school board unanimously voted on the layoffs in a meeting last night. More than 400 positions are expected to be eliminated, including teachers, principals, special education staff, custodians, cafeteria workers, and more. Some district employees say there was already a staff shortage.
This is no excuse to be paralyzed and to resort to layoff notices as a blunt measure to a problem that requires a more skillful approach. Over 60 schools currently have special education vacancies, and that could get a lot worse if educators decide to not apply for those positions when they see the headlines about the district's rash decision to issue layoff notices.
The board says all employees facing layoffs will be notified by next week, but they will try to reduce the number of potential layoffs in the next several weeks. We're also awaiting the results of the board's closed session that took place this afternoon. Americans have been banking on the interest rate cuts foreshadowed late last year, hoping for a reprieve from nearly 2 years of increases and higher costs. Laura Aguirre has more on what the Federal Reserve Chair indicated today.
We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt.
That was essentially the good news, bad news message from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell ahead of his testimony to Congress Wednesday on the state of the economy.
While inflation remains above the FOMC's objective of 2%, it has eased substantially, and the slowing in inflation has occurred without a significant increase in unemployment.
Easing inflation and unemployment at near historic lows were positives that Powell highlighted, but they came at a price many consumers are still struggling with.
We've raised our policy interest rate by 5.25 percentage points.
Soaring interest rates were key to the Fed's aggressive inflation-fighting campaign that spanned 11 hikes since March of 2022 and leveled out last summer. Still,
the committee does not expect that it will be appropriate to reduce the target range until it has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%.
Chairman Powell warned against doing too much too soon, and the central bank will hold steady for now, but he added in a glimmer of hope for easing rates down the road.
If the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to begin dialing back policy restraint at some point this year.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
The 2024 primary election had a near record low voter turnout, with just 22% of voters in San Diego participating. The rest of the nation is seeing about the same numbers. Our media partner KGTV spoke with a political science professor who offered a few explanations for why that is. And she says a lot of the same faces were on the ballot, from the presidential race to local elected officials. She says a lack of propositions may also have contributed.
But it's going to be costly. It's going to cost some money to taxpayers, and it's going to move some money around. And I think those kinds of things, especially when they're very complicated, like Proposition 1 was, I think they said it took up 68 pages in our voter guide to explain. I'm not sure how many voters read 68 pages. So I think at that point, a lot of voters just vote no. I don't really know what this is. I'm not really sure what it will do. And I'm not really sure I should vote for it.
And ballots are still being counted, of course, and Prop 1 will come down to the wire. The next time the registrar's office will update election results will be by 5 p.m. tomorrow, which they will do every day at 5 p.m. until March 9th. And now that Super Tuesday is over, attention turns to the remaining states onto the November election. But there are more than just eligible voters paying attention. KPBS education reporter MG Perez takes us to the classroom, where current politics provide learning in real time.
The hardest part is the paper, not the presentation. And the paper's worth 75% of your grade.
Vince Martinez is speaking to his students, taking an advanced placement class in research. They are a mix of juniors and seniors at Otay Ranch High School. Many of them will be old enough to vote in November's presidential election.
I think the adults in power are doing a really bad job.
17-year-old Olivia Metz is in the AP research class, working on an investigation of sexism and its impact on women's rights in the world today.
I'm worried, but I also think if we band together and we try, we can make changes that can help.
Olivia and her classmates are some of Mr. Martinez's most advanced students, but they are still part of the social media generation that is inundated with information from sources seeking to influence them.
Their primary motive may be profit. Their primary motive may be content, clicks, we like to call it clickbait, and they trust these voices and these sources to be true and factual when they're not.
I'm investigating misinformation within politics.
17-year-old Brady Peters was scrolling through his Instagram account, flooded with political campaign ads about the California primary and beyond, when he stumbled on his class research topic.
It would go from like a small idea to more extreme as you would be scrolling through everything.
Brady has just completed collecting data from 114 students at his school in 9th through 12th grade. They all completed a survey after watching groups in pairs of political ad videos.
One of the videos in each of the pair of two was false. But in the survey, I did not tell the people or the participants taking the survey that one of the videos was false. And I wanted to see how truthful they would think it was.
After this series of decisive wins, Trump is optimistic.
At Wilson Middle School in City Heights, there's a different kind of investigation happening. As 6th grade students watch the daily CNN 10 program, they try to figure out politics in the adult world and the people who are the biggest players. Michael Williams is their teacher.
And most of the kids know the big names. They know who Joe Biden is. They know who Donald Trump is. They'll know who Vladimir Putin is.
11 and 12-year-olds don't always have a context for national and world events. So Mr. Williams uses a strategy called scaffolding, where he directs their learning starting with concepts they understand, and then providing less support as they master the content. After all, they're just a couple of presidential elections away from being eligible to vote.
By the 2032 ones, they'll be old enough to vote. They'll be old enough to participate in our democracy. So we want them to be thinking about it and thinking about it as active citizens.
They are watching and listening. 12-year-old Jason Ramirez says this.
There's going to be an election about Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and there's like, I forgot who it is. There's like this girl saying like that Donald Trump is not going to make it. Like he's going to lose. Yeah, Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
If I would like to pick who would win, I'd say Donald Trump, because a lot of bad stuff has been happening since Joe Biden was president.
11-year-old Misael Martinez is a Democratic supporter.
If you were old enough to vote, who would you vote for?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Tell me why.
Because Donald Trump didn't really support people from Mexico.
What do you like about Joe Biden?
He really he supports people, like he's supporting Ukraine.
Students learning lessons in a way they can understand and finding truth on their academic journey to graduation. That's the goal in Mr. Martinez's class.
And this process is an analytical process built on information and supporting that information through a collaborative effort intellectually with themselves, their peers, their teacher.
Along with their grade, these students will get a vote of confidence, too. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Well, let's take a look at your weather headlines, break down what you need to know as we head throughout the rest of the week. That rain sticks around through Thursday, so we aren't quite done. And yes, we're even talking about some mountain snow later Wednesday, even into early Thursday. But if you don't like the snow, if you don't like the rain, you're in luck. Dry and warmer weather in store by Friday into the weekend. But we do still have winter weather advisories in effect. So let's break down the here and now. That's going to last through Thursday afternoon for the mountainous terrain. Now we can see some gustier conditions at times and some light accumulation. So you may run into some slick spots, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of that snow is blowing around. So just take it easy and stay weather aware if you are in those areas. As for tonight, we are dropping down to lows in the 50s there along the coast. And yes, it's going to be quite stormy there, while it's still going to be quite wet the further inland you go. And yes, we're even talking about some mountain snow. As we head into tomorrow, well, those showers do stick around and gradually going to start to clear out. But overall, again, we are still tracking some wet weather, especially earlier on in the day. I do want to show you how this is going to play out. Like I said, we do have more rain on the way, especially late Wednesday into early Thursday. But by Thursday afternoon, again, things do start to clear out. I'm not going to rule out, of course, some showers pushing on through, but overall much drier than we're going to be late Wednesday into early Thursday. But again, those chances don't quite disappear completely until Friday, where you'll see some sunshine again. Let's take a look at these next 5 days. Again, it's still going to be quite active, especially into early Thursday along the coast, high 65, but mostly sunny skies on tap Friday into Saturday. And again, like I said, it is going to be warmer, and that sunshine will stick around through the beginning of next week. As for areas further inland, a couple of showers again Thursday, and then those clouds will gradually start to break as we head into the weekend. Temperatures will rise slightly to the upper 60s there for the weekend and staying that way into Monday. As for the mountains, again, rain and snow through early Thursday, and then by Friday and Saturday, we'll see lots of sun. Highs do rise back up to the 40s, though those clouds do start to roll back through Sunday into Monday. As for the deserts, well, we're rising back up to the 70s as we head into the weekend and staying that way even through Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
SDSU had a special ceremony to officially open its new river park in Mission Valley today. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us the river park sits on Kumeyaay ancestral lands.
Before the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Jamie LeBrake, a council member for the Sequan Band of the Kumeyaay Nation, gave an offering of tobacco that shows gratitude and is traditionally shared during accomplishments.
May we as a community walk hand in hand, side by side, with the Kumeyaay people, acknowledging the past, honoring the present, and working towards a future that respects the inherent connection between the Kumeyaay Nation and this land, the San Diego River, and the surrounding areas.
The SDSU Mission Valley development that includes Snapdragon Stadium officially opened a 34-acre river park. Measure G laid the foundation for this park back in 2018.
When we saw that asphalt start to slowly turn into what we're standing on today, I think it's safe to say the voters of San Diego made the right choice when they supported Measure G.
San Diego State President Adela de la Torre says this park is an opportunity for the community to come together.
We as San Diegans need accessible, beautiful green spaces. And this is a space right in the city that everyone can come and join with their family members and friends. They can bring their furry friends, and they can bring their children, and they can bring their grandparents.
This park includes recreational fields, more than 4 miles of walking and biking trails, and a children's play area.
I love the play structures, and I think about it all the time because when my grandkids come and visit, where they want to go is where the play structures are. So the play structures here are fabulous.
I mean, you look around, there's so many activities to do. The park is right there. There's just plenty to do.
Mission Hills resident Yo Kitazawa and his daughter Amalia have been coming to the park for the last couple of months.
Having a toddler, we like that it's clean, it's safe. There's a bathroom nearby. It's close to everything. Yeah, I'm glad there's one like this around here.
Kitazawa grew up in San Diego and remembers Qualcomm Stadium and its large concrete parking lot.
Now there's this gorgeous park. I'm glad it's here. I hope they build more things like this around town. Yeah, we will go.
More park space is expected to open in late April. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. President Biden will deliver his State of the Union address. PBS NewsHour will have live coverage of the speech, followed by the Republican response. And you can watch it here on KPBS at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And then on KPBS Midday Edition, how art is being used to spark social change. Plus, the weekend arts and culture preview, and that is tomorrow. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.